Hi guys, it's Josh Lloyd here for an NBA DraftKings first look for Tuesday across the league. We've got 6 games on. Let's talk about those games. Before I do, notification bell, ring it. Thumbs up, smash it. Comments, drop them down below. Now, let's talk basketball. First game, the Portland Trailblazers and the Indiana Pacers. We know that Domantas Sabonis has been ruled out. Goga Bitadze and Jeremy Lamb are both questionable. Now, if Goga's ready to go, he's going to start and he's going to be great value at $4,000. Well, that's great. If he is out, they'll start Jakar Sampson at center. He'll probably get abused by Yusuf Nurkic, but there is still some value in him in that spot. O'Shea Brissett at $5,000. He's playing well. He's going to start regardless. Is he worth 5,000? Well, the 36 average over the last 3 would tell you yes. The 28 average over the last 5 would tell you yes. I think if Goga and Lamb both play, I'd be more hesitant with him, but I still think he's worth a look. Ed Sumner at 4,000. Really love what he's been doing. Putting up some really solid numbers, averaging 26 over his last 5. I think he's going to start regardless, so I do like that. And I think Yusuf Nurkic is going to have a field day here, to be honest. Nurk's already averaging 47 over the last 3, and he's under 7,000. That, to me, looks absolutely brilliant. Levert at 8,200 doesn't really crank me up all that much, but Brogdon at 88 with Sabonis out, that looks pretty good. I really like that for Brogo at that sort of salary. Lillard at 9,1, he's just not hitting the right button, so I'm out on that. I'm out on CJ as well, and Norman Powell at 63 is definitely, in my mind, priced too high. The next game, Milwaukee. They are taking on the Charlotte Hornets. One of the early games here. The Bucks are 9-point favorites and the total's 220. Bismack Biyombo is getting 20 minutes a game. And you might say cool, and I'd say cool to that as well. But at 3,300, if Biz can get you 17 or 18 points, it's not a horrendous option if you're looking for that cheap guy. I probably wouldn't do it, but it's not a horrendous option. Devontae Graham at 6,200, I think, makes a little bit of sense. While Yanni at 10,700, I reckon he's going to have an absolute monster. He's averaging 61 over the last 3. Let's fire him all the way up here. And I do like that Terry Rozier is under 8,000. 7,700 for Tez looks pretty good. And PJ Washington Jr. at 68. Now, PJ is pretty tough to rely upon, but he's obviously got 50-point upside, but probably got 25-point downside. So that makes him a tournament guy. Cody Martin's been starting, and at $4,000, we saw it last game. He had 41 points. We've also seen him have an 8-point game. So he is a little bit all over the place, but I don't completely dislike getting him in there. I like Miles Bridges at 7,500 as having a really solid floor value. That looks all right to me, but guys like McDaniels and Lopez and DiVincenzo, I'm not really into. I'm not massively into Drew Holiday either at 7,800. I think he's all right. I just don't think that it's really any sort of, wow, man, I've got to make sure I have Drew Holiday on my team sort of scenario. The Thunder and the Celtics. The Celtics are 13.5-point favorites and the total is 219.5. This is, of course, a back-to-back for Oklahoma City, and it's the beginning of a back-to-back for Boston. Now, I would not be surprised. Kemba Walker's been sitting the second game of back-to-backs. I would not be surprised if Kemba Walker sits the first game of this back-to-back and then returns on Wednesday to play Charlotte. So keep an eye on that. That would boost the value of Marcus Smart at 6,600, maybe Evan Fournier at 5,000, maybe Peyton Pritchard comes into play at 3,700 if that is in fact what happens. I expect Lou Dort to return for the Thunder, and same as Tony Bradley, they could choose to sit anybody though. Well, Rob Williams is also in line to return for Boston. He's at 5,500. I don't think I'd use him in his first game back, but it is at least marginally appealing. 8,400 for Jaylen Brown. I think the blowout risk in this game makes it really tough to rely upon anyone, especially these high-end guys who are dealing with some injuries like Brown is. Really hard for me to get super excited about that one. Pokuševski's at 5,100. That's probably too high. Ty Jerome at 35. He had a pretty strong game on Monday. I'm not 100% in on Jerome here, but he's at least gets my interest. While Dort at 6,400, I think that's definitely worth looking at considering if he plays, considering he did sit out on Monday, so he will be well rested. Baisley's at 6,300. I'm never fully going to be invested in Darius Baisley at that sort of salary, and if Dort plays, that probably does reduce the usefulness of him there. Roby at 48 is one that I like. I like his ability to contribute right across the board. We've seen that recently, putting up some pretty solid numbers, but this game does have the hallmarks of a bit of an ass-kicking and a bit of a weird rotation game with rests potentially coming on both sides. The next game that we take a look at, we are going to look at the Brooklyn Nets and the Toronto Raptors. Speaking of games where rests are going to be a huge issue, we know already that James Harden is out for the Brooklyn Nets. Nick Claxton remains out. Alize Johnson is out. Kevin Durant, whether he comes off the bench or not, remains to be seen. But this is the Raptors. It's their back-to-back. They've got 5 games this week. So who sits? I would say Anunoby definitely sits. I would say Lowry definitely sits. And I think there's a chance that Siakam and Van Vliet are also out. This also could be a chance. Gary Trent didn't play on Monday. I think he comes back in. But we could be getting value from guys like Birch, Malachi Flynn, who comes in at 4,200. Although if Van Vliet and Trent both play, Flynn's value is diminished. But say Van Vliet's out and Flynn has to start, then we smash that one. I think Birch at 4,700 looks pretty good. Boucher's going to be out, so Gillespie's going to have another opportunity at 3,100 to have some upside there. But it also could be a situation where Lowry and Anunoby are out and Siakam play, so you're firing Pascal all the way up. I like Kyrie at 9,500. He is putting up some absolutely huge numbers. Kyrie is averaging 59 points over the last 3. Durant's at 8,300. I actually really like that as well. Durant, it doesn't even matter in these limited minutes. He's putting up just huge numbers, and I don't think he'll be all that limited here. While DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin will take the center minutes. Griffin's at 46 and DeAndre's at 43. I think actually both guys can have some utility in this matchup. But again, this is one we really need to focus in on to see exactly what Toronto does with that lineup, because there are a ton of questions that I have in terms of who actually is going to play and who isn't going to play, because there are a lot of guys who may or may not be in or may be in that matchup. The next game we take a look at, we've got the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are also coming in on a back-to-back against the Houston Rockets. Of course, the Rockets will be without John Wall, who's now out for the season with a hamstring injury, but they welcome back a ton of blokes. Kevin Porter, Jayshawn Tate he didn't miss, but he got hurt last game. Christian Wood's going to play. Daniel House is going to play. Avery Bradley's going to play. All these guys, bar Tate, missed the last game. So they're all back in action. Sterling Brown and Eric Gordon remain sidelined. How their rotation looks is still anybody's guess. Do they start Avery Bradley? Do they start Armani Brooks in place of John Wall? There are still quite a few question marks as to how that is all going to play out. Jaden McDaniels is at 3,600. Just the fact that his salary is so low and he does have pop-off ability makes him at least into the player pool. Woods at 8,000, who struggled a lot of late, but I think at that price in this matchup it works. I love 10,000 for Karl Anthony Towns here. I think he can have a field day. Well, D'Angelo Russell, even though it is a back-to-back, his price is low enough, and he is playing back-to-backs, that he is worth looking at. Cousin Kevin Porter at 6,500. That looks to be a strong one, as does Goose Anthony Edwards at 7,500. A lot of value in both of those guys here. While Kelly Olynyk's at 6,600, and I actually think Olynyk's going to be one of the better plays that you could find, given the injuries and the fact that his usage and playmaking is going to be really, really useful for this Houston team. So Olynyk can be in the mix. Maybe you take a flyer on Armani Brooks at 43. I'd much rather do him than do, say, an Avery Bradley. But Daniel House is another option at 4,400. It's just going to depend on who actually is in that lineup and how those minutes get distributed. Another team here for this last game of the day that is going to be on their second game of 5 for the week, and that is the Dallas Mavericks. They are taking on the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors will be without Damian Lee and Kent Bazemore. There was no Porzingis or Josh Richardson on Monday for the Mavericks. I would be absolutely shocked if everyone plays in this one for the Mavericks. So watch for an absence of, say, a Luka Doncic, maybe a Dorian Finney-Smith, and maybe Porzingis and Richardson remain sidelined. Michael Mulder's been starting for the Warriors, and he hasn't been producing at necessarily a high level, but an absolute minimum salary player who can have an 18 or 19-pointer. Not one to completely disregard. 10-3 for Steph looks pretty good. We know how unbelievable he's been. While Toscano Anderson at sub 4,000, I love what he's been doing as well. He's been getting 20 a night, and that absolutely works at that salary. 63 for Oubre is a little on the high side, but I don't mind it because he does have a high usage role coming off the bench. While Doncic at 10-9, I just have very, very high doubts that he plays. I think Jalen Brunson at 48 could actually turn out to be one of the best plays of the day, with the assumption that Luka does not play. And I'm not assuming that Luka doesn't play. I'm just very skeptical that he ends up playing. In terms of overall values, Goga, if he plays, there's real value there. Malachi Flynn could work out, depending on what the Raptors do. Kem Birch, I think he is a strong one regardless. I like McDaniels, Jaden, that is. I like Ed Sumner, Marcus Smart, Yusuf Nurkic a lot, Christian Wood, maybe Evan Fournier, D'Angelo Russell, Siakam if he plays, Towns and Irving, Steph Curry, and then your minimum salary flyer on like a Michael Mulder, and Kevin Porter also looks to be a pretty good option. Don't forget, notification bell, thumbs up, subscribe, and you can find my channel in the title and in the description, Josh Lloyd Fantasy Basketball. Go check me out over there, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.